Hello, respiratory system. The organs that help to get oxygen from the air into your body, into the blood, and to get rid of carbon dioxide is called the respiratory system. The meaning of this word is the system that actually plays a role of getting oxygen into your body and getting rid of carbon dioxide, which is a waste material, is called the respiratory system. The respiratory system comprises of some organs in the body, which, like we mentioned in the lower grades, that we have what we call organ level of organization. The level of organization started from the cell, goes to the tissue, organs, organ system, and the organism itself. So the respiratory system is got some organs which actually work together to make it easy for you to respire or to be able to breathe. Amongst them is the nose, the trachea, the lungs, the bronchi. Now the lungs is quite divided into three sections. The meaning is because the surface area of the lung is not much, so the lung is subdivided into bronchi. Now the bronchi is also subdivided into bronchioles, and the bronchioles is subdivided into the alveolus. What does this mean? The meaning is you've got all this division and all these things taking place in the lung because the lung wants to increase the surface area so that there could be easy diffusion of gases in and out of the lungs. Then we've got the intercostal muscle. The intercostal muscle connects with the rib, and that makes the rib to flex, to move up and down, forward and backward. So in case you want to inhale, the muscle has to move outward to allow the rib to make your lungs have more space to take in the gases. And when the diaphragm also helps to play an important role in it, when you breathe in, the diaphragm would have to flap or go down. And when you want to exhale, when you want to breathe out, then the diaphragm will have to curve inwards to help you exhale. So all of these things work together to make it easier for you to be able to respire. Now let's talk about the nose quickly. The nose, normally air enters the air passages through the nose, find airs in the nose, trap some dust particles in the air. We have some air particles which we actually call, which look like a ciliated cells. They help to trap dust particles and some germs which might want to have access to your lungs, because if those things are not done, you might have some infection by the kind of gases you take into your body. The nose is moistened by mucus. Mucus is a watery liquid. It makes the air moist as it passes inwards and helps to trap bacteria that are carried on the air currents too. And the air is warmed by the body temperature. And that's the reason why you find it that whenever you try to clean your nose, we try to blow out some stuff from it. Is normally darkish. Is normally darkish in color. The meaning is all of these things which have been collected are being expelled from the body through your nose. Now the trachea is made up of ring of cartilage. Each ring is in a C shape. The inner lining of the windpipe has two types of cells. We've got mucus secreting cells to help to trap the dust particles and bacteria in the form of the mucus too. Then the second cell is the ciliated epithelial cell. The ciliated epithelial cell looks something like this. It looks like it's called a specialized cell, and it has the cilia on the surface. So what the cilia does is it helps to move the mucus to the top of the windpipe, where it enters back into the mouth and it's been swallowed into the digestive system. Now the next one is the lungs. The lung is actually two, and the lungs are subdivided into the bronchi, and the bronchi is subdivided into the bronchioles. The windpipe divides into two smaller tubes known as the bronchi. The singular is called bronchos, and the bronchi divide up into smaller tubes called the bronchioles. The alveolus, after traveling into the many bronchioles, it finally passes into some of the millions of tiny sacs called the alveoli, which have the specialized surface for gas exchange. What we're trying to talk about here is this: where you've got the bronchioles, which is the subsection of the lungs. Then the bronchioles are subdivided into millions of alveoli. These alveoli are very tiny, what do you call it, cell, the one cell thick. They actually make it easy for gas diffusion to take place in the lungs, and that's the reason why we say they are one cell thick. So the next one is let's look at the adaptation of the alveolus that makes it easy for gas exchange to take place properly in the body. The alveolus has adaptations to allow it to exchange gases effectively well. Amongst them is a large surface area. It has a thick, thin elastic wall too, is one cell thick. It's surrounded by a network of the moist surface too. So all of these four qualities makes it easy for the alveoli to be able to do the gas exchange effectively well. Now we've got the intercostal muscles. The chest wall is made by the ribs and the intercostal muscle. Each rib is attached to the backbone by a joint that allows only a small amount of movement. So this is the reason why I mentioned before that the rib is very important, because it protects the organs actually, and also it gives room for the organs to increase in size and also decrease in size. And the internal and external intercostal muscles make the ribs to move upward, backward, up and down too. Now the last one is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a large sheet of muscle attached to the edges of the 10th pair of the rib and the backbone. So if you've ever dissected an animal before, you check my YouTube channel, you see the dissection we had with grade 9. You will see the diaphragm actually separates the lung section from the stomach region. It's actually a demarcation or a barricade between the two organ systems. Why? So that materials or organs would not have to be swapping between in the human's body. So, and also the diaphragm also helps in exhalation and inhalation. If you want to breathe in, the diaphragm is going to flap, it's going to come down, it flaps down. And once you want to exhale, yani you need to make the lungs to contract, to get smaller, then you will see the diaphragm is going to go up this way. So that makes it easy for you to get rid of all the gases in your lungs. Now the next one is a diagram to make you see the way it happens in a real picture. This is inhalation, means a process by which you take in air into the lungs. Now this is the gas, the air coming into your lungs. This is a rib cage. So the rib cage moves up and out. So the rib cage is going to move up and out. Why? To give enough space to the lungs to have the gases taken into your lungs. Now the diaphragm would contract and move downwards. The diaphragm is normally like this, but when it's time for you to take in gases, the diaphragm will have to go down, and that makes it easy for you to allow to have enough gas into your lungs. Now the pressure in the lung decreases and the air comes rushing in. So once the pressure in the lung is not much, the meaning is you need more gas. So the gases rush into the lungs. And remember that what makes the gases to diffuse into the lungs is because of the differences in the pressure, or the differences in the concentration of gas in the lungs and in the atmosphere. If the concentration of gas in the atmosphere is more than the one you have in the lungs, the meaning is there will be a net movement of gas from a place of high concentration of the gas to a place of low concentration of the gas. Now let's talk about exhalation. Exhalation is a process of expelling air from the lungs. Now what happens is almost the opposite of what happens in inhalation. So you would see the rib cage is going to move back inward to press down on the lungs, and you will see the diaphragm is going to move upward to contract, to push on the lungs too, and the diaphragm relaxes and moves upward. And what happens is the pressure in the lungs is going to increase. When that increases, it allows gases or air to get out of the lungs. So this is just a summary of the inhalation and exhalation. You can pause the video and master this before we proceed. Now the next stage is a model. we can have this model done. So it's a model that shows how it happens in the body. Now this model to show the action of diaphragm. The plastic white tube is representing the trachea and the bronchi. The bell jar is this, all of this is called the bell jar. It's called the thoracic cavity. It's a cavity which is around the what? Around the chest. Then we've got a thin rubber sheet. The thin rubber sheet you see acts like a diaphragm. This is the diaphragm. And the balloon would be representing the wall, the lung. So now we want you to see how it happens when you respire, when you inhale and exhale. When rubber sheet is pulled downward, when you see the rubber sheet pulled downward, if you pull it downward, what would happen is the air pressure inside the bell jar is lowered, so the air pressure will go down, and the balloon is going to expand. It increases in size. But when the rubber sheet is pulled inward, the air pressure in the bell jar increased, and the balloons would contract. So this is inspiration, this is expiration, or this is inhalation or exhalation. So this is, we use the same way. It's actually used interchangeably. We can use inspire, expire, inhale, exhale. Now let's talk about the gas exchanges. Gaseous exchange takes place in the lung by diffusion. I already mentioned that to you. Diffusion is a movement of gas from a place of higher concentration to a place of low concentration. And oxygen diffuses from alveoli into the blood capillary. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood capillary into the alveoli. What does this mean? The meaning is when you want to have the oxygen, gases, oxygen diffuse into the blood capillary, the meaning is there will be a low concentration of oxygen in the blood capillary, and you're going to have a high concentration of oxygen in the alveoli. So the point I'm making is when you have a high concentration of a gas in a place, so what happens is the body system will find a way to stabilize or maintain a balance of the concentration in those two places. The example I'm saying is this. Let's say, for example, you've got a semi-permeable membrane, and here you've got space in between the barricade. You've got space in between the barricade. Let's say, for example, you've got gas molecules of let me say, for example, let's say we've got 5 molecules here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the other side, you've got only 2. So what's going to happen is there will be a movement of gas particles from here to here, and that means you're not going to have 1 here anymore. So then now you've got 4 and 4. Now you've got balance. So this is the exact thing that happens that makes it easy for you to exchange gases in the lungs and the alveoli. Now, during inhalation, when the fresh air is taken into the alveoli, what happens? There is more oxygen in the fresh air than in the blood capillaries. I already explained this to you. Oxygen from the alveoli diffuses into the blood capillaries surrounding the alveoli, and the oxygen combines with the hemoglobin, the red blood cell, producing oxyhemoglobin. Now, before we proceed, I would like to tell you the meaning of hemoglobin. As I mentioned to you before in the in the class we had, the hemoglobin is actually a protein which is actually found on the surface of the red blood cell. Hemoglobin is actually a pigment. It gives it red color to the blood and makes the blood red. The blood is actually not red before, but because of the hemoglobin, it makes it red. So that's the reason why the hemoglobin is actually what takes the oxygen and to form oxyhemoglobin. So at the same time, higher concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood capillaries causes carbon dioxide to diffuse from the blood capillary into the alveoli. So the carbon dioxide is expelled from the alveoli during the exhalation. So the meaning is because of the difference in the concentration in the two places, there will be diffusion from a place of high concentration to a place of low concentration. Now the next one is a picture that actually depicts all I've talked about. So I can pause the video a little bit and study the picture you have in the on the slide. Now let's talk about the blood circulation. Now the heart pumps the oxygenated blood out of the body. Oxygen from oxyhemoglobin diffuses out of the blood and into the oxyhemoglobin diffuses out of the blood. Oxygen from the oxyhemoglobin diffuses out of the blood into the body. So when that happens, it makes you to be able to carry out the process of respiration. So carbon dioxide in the body. So when that happens, when the oxyhemoglobin is being diffused, is being taken away into the blood, to the bloodstream. So you're gonna have only hemoglobin remaining, and you're not gonna have oxygen. And remember, when you have a blood is actually having a dark red color, the meaning is the hemoglobin is got enough oxygen. But if the oxygen in the hemoglobin is not enough, the hemoglobin is not going to be very red. So this is the reason why you find that people actually depict the deoxygenated blood with a blue color. We don't have a blue blood. So this is a misconception which students usually have, but there's nothing called a blue blood. What we used to have is the pictures depict the deoxygenated blood with a blue color, and tells you that the one that has oxygen is actually what is actually red. So the blood capillaries now carry the oxygenated blood, which is dark, dull red in color. The deoxygenated blood is finally carried back to the heart and then to the blood capillaries surrounding the alveoli, and the deoxygenated blood releases carbon dioxide to the alveoli and absorbs oxygen, forming oxygenated blood again. So the process repeats itself. So now let's talk about cell respiration before we proceed to the next step. We've already had classes on respiration in previous lessons. Respiration is simple, is a taking of oxygen to break down food or glucose to release energy for the body cells to use. So this is exactly the same process that happens in combustion, if you know what combustion is. So cell respiration takes place in all living cells, that is in both plant and animal cells. Cell respiration, which uses oxygen, is classified as aerobic respiration. The word aerobic means the use of oxygen. And when you have it taking place in the absence of oxygen, it's called anaerobic. So some organisms, such as yeast and some bacteria, do not use oxygen for respiration. We call that what? We call that anaerobic respiration. The meaning is respiration can be divided into two. We've got both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Now, we want to talk about the effect of smoke to the respiratory system here. Now, many people actually take smoking to be fun, but it's actually a very deadly attitude. Cigarette smoke contains irritant chemical, which is actually something very dangerous for the health, and a carcinogen, which is an agent that can actually cause cancer, is also found in the cigarette. So among the other things which makes cigarette very dangerous is nicotine. Nicotine is what makes people get addicted. They get addicted to smoking. The meaning is when you get addicted to something, you can't leave it. If you leave it for a short time, you don't find it easy. You don't find it anymore. We also have carbon monoxide, which is very poisonous gas that can actually cause people to die. If you have somebody who's locked up in a room with which is full of exhaust, a person can easily die because of the poison which is coming out from the carbon monoxide. We also have sulfur oxide, which can also damage the tissues of the lung. We have tar. What makes the lungs black is the tar. It blackens the lung and causes them to be less efficient for gaseous exchange. What it actually does is it reduces the sensitivity of the alveoli. So the alveoli is not going to be able to sense oxygen very easily. So it makes the person to lack oxygen a lot of time. It makes the person to be very weak. So now this is a diagram of someone who's actually smokes. This is how the lungs look like. It's a very horrible lung. And to be honest with you, you can actually help people around you who smoke
to make them stop smoking if they can actually watch this video and see that this is the way the lungs would actually look if they are being chance to open the heart, open the chest and see what it's in it. So among all diseases of the respiratory system is asthma. We also have smoker's cough. We have bronchitis. Bronchitis is also a very dangerous disease. It destroys the bronchus and makes it to be less sensitive too. We've got lung cancer, we've got emphysema, we've got heart disease and infant death. All of these are diseases which are related to the respiratory system. Now, just as a summary of the keywords in what we've mentioned so far, breathing is a movement of air into and out of the lungs, which is called ventilation. External respiration is exchanging of gas between the air in the lungs and in the blood. Gas transport by blood means transport of oxygen to the body cell and the return of carbon dioxide. Internal respiration is exchanging gases between the blood and the body cells. Cellular respiration is using the oxygen in the cell process and using that to produce carbon dioxide, and that gives you energy. So these are some questions in which we have for you. Now, it says Sinjit knows that his muscle cells can contract only if they respire. List 3 other processes needing energy released from respiration. All the metabolic activities in the body needs energy from respiration. Among the metabolic activities are circulation. We also have reproduction, and we also have movement. So all of these things need energy release from respiration. Explain how oxygen and glucose reach the skeletal muscles. The oxygen and glucose are carried, oxygen, O2, and glucose are carried by the blood and sent via the arteries to the capillaries, which send the blood to all the muscle cells and allow them to use for respiration and get energy from it. Now the next one is summary, nerve transmission. I think you need. So these are some of the activities you can do yourself. Name the reactant in respiration. The reactant in respiration are oxygen plus glucose. These are the reactants. When the products are water plus carbon dioxide. So, and also release of energy is a product, release energy. Why do sperm require energy? It requires energy to move. It requires energy to swim to egg. What is the chemical formula for glucose? C6H12O6. Why are combustion and respiration similar? Combustion is the use of oxygen. Let's say, for example, propane plus, sorry, let me write that in English because that might be complex for you. So if you have propane, it's a gas, it's this fossil fuel. Propane plus oxygen is going to give you carbon dioxide plus water. So now combustion and respiration is the same because they have the same product. One, they also release energy, and it's also the same reaction that takes place because it's the use of oxygen to break down fuel. But respiration is the use of oxygen to break down food. So what happens to the waste product of respiration? The waste product of respiration is what? It's water and carbon dioxide. So the same carbon dioxide is being used by the plant to make another food again. So this is all I have for you, and I wish you the best. Thanks for listening.